Watching my life unfurl at a time when geeks like me can change the world. There's a hackathon tonight, and if it works out alright, I can improve society. Oh yeah, improve society. The VC will be there with money in his wallet. I'll pitch him like a boss, I could get money for my project. 7-figure summit, I'll be crushing everyone at the hackathon tonight. At the hackathon tonight. Well, the prize is up for grabs if I can get paid. My phone is 6 months old, you know I need to upgrade. I can surely waste up gadgets if I sweet talk with the judges at the hackathon tonight. At the hackathon tonight. Now the rebel's on the table and I'm ready to go. I've got Sublime 5 open on my MacBook Pro. I'll type in 20 words a minute. I'm really gonna kill it at the hackathon tonight. At the hackathon tonight.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our final HACKTOBERFEST workshop of the month. I can see you a little bit. I won't be having this on too much longer. I will be able to code in it. But thank you all so much for coming. There we go. To our very special HACKTOBERFEST edition of our Add Google and Facebook OAuth to a React application and deploy to OpenShift workshop. So if you've come to this specific workshop before, I have revamped it, updated it, made it much better. So we're gonna have a little bit more of a relaxed workshop today, a little less presentation, a little more poking around. So if you would like to follow along, you can do that. We have OpenShift clusters available to all of you. So the first thing you will need is an IBM Cloud account. And you can sign up for that. If you're joining from the Crowdcast, you can join from the link that's posted in the top of the chat. If you're joining from YouTube or Twitch or one of our IBM Developer socials, you can join. You can sign up for an IBM Cloud account at ibm.biz/appid/OpenShift. Now, there were some recent changes to the cloud accounts. So I want to encourage you all to, if you don't have a cloud account, to sign up with the URL that I'm providing you all today. That will allow you to sign up for an account, access your OpenShift cluster, do all of the things that you need to do without having to add a credit card. Again, everything we're going to be doing outside of running your own OpenShift clusters, which we're not going to do, I'm going to give you access to OpenShift clusters that we've provisioned for you to use. But everything we're going to do today is going to be utilizing all of the IBM Cloud light tiers. So there won't be any charges. But going forward, there will be a requirement to have a credit card on file. So I always encourage you to come to the workshops, get a cloud sign up link to sign up with so that you can skip that part of the process. Okay. So this is the GitHub repository. So I have all of the technical documentation in here. I also have visual click-by-click slides in the slide deck as well. But all of the commands that you'll need to use today are going to be in the Git repository. This is the link to the slides. So again, this is all of the links are in the Crowdcast chat, top of the chat as well. But you can access the slides at ibm.biz/appid-OpenShift-slides. And as always, excuse me, the live stream is being recorded. So wherever you're comfortable joining from, you can watch the live stream, but the recording will be available immediately following the workshop at crowdcast.io/e/appid-OpenShift. So if you haven't already shared in the chat, I encourage you all to share a little bit about you. I'm going to introduce myself first as an example to get to know, so you can get to know me better. And I'd like to get to know all of you too, especially those of you who are new, who haven't joined one of my workshops before. So feel free to share your name and pronouns. If you're comfortable, your title, what company you work for, or maybe what program you're currently studying in. Where you're from or joining from, and something you love, and then a quirk, something that's uniquely weird or different about you. So I will go first. My name is Jenna. My pronouns are she, her. I am a developer advocate at IBM. I am originally from and currently joining from Detroit. It is raining here. I'm sad. Hopefully it'll dry up this weekend. Something I love, I really love, I'll switch it up a little bit. I really love like all day developer workshops. Like usually they have a full day of workshops before or in the middle of some of the bigger tech conferences. I really like just spending a whole day working through different tutorials or attending different workshops. I feel like I've accomplished a lot and learned a lot in a day. I also really like hackathons for that reason as well. Okay, so to start, I always like to pair and encourage you all to look into our IBM Cloud certifications. They are free. So I know there's a lot of courses and certifications out there that you take the course, complete everything, and then you have to pay like $10 for a certificate. That is not the case. These are accredited certifications from IBM in all different areas. These are a few that I've done personally that I like. There's a whole bunch more actually that I'm planning to do over Christmas break. But everything from data science with Python or Apache Spark to cloud native application development and serverless, Docker essentials, Kubernetes and OpenShift, all kinds of stuff. And the courses are hands-on. They give you a really nice introduction to that technical topic. And best of all, you earn an IBM accredited certification at the end of it. You'll earn a badge that you can put on your LinkedIn or any of your profiles and show proficiency in different areas that you're looking to grow your skills in. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to shut my camera down so I can see. My dogs are sleeping on the other half of the costume anyway. So let's see. So there's a question, is the green pillow filter intentional? That was not a filter. That was my Gumby Halloween mask. It takes up the whole screen, so I know it probably looks like one, but it's very big. I just can't code in it. So, but yes, just a little Halloween celebration. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is if you haven't already, there is a URL in the chat. Oops, let me get to your clusters. Let me give you all time to do that. So we're gonna move things around a little bit. Okay. So in order to access your OpenShift cluster, you're going to need to go to the following URL, HACKTOBERFEST, and it's kind of long. But when you can click on the URL in the chat, or you can copy the URL from here. I will leave it up for just a second for you. And then I will show you, you can go ahead and put the key in. The key is OS Lab, all lowercase, and then put the email of your IBM Cloud account that you're going to be using to follow along. So give you just a second for that. Check over here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this down for a second. Again, I'm going to give you access to this first. Let's go here. Then I'm going to give you a brief intro. It looks like someone said, okay. There may be, I know there were some issues. I think there might be a minor node issue. They're working on fixing it right now. I just sent a message over. They're working on fixing it right now. So no worries. I'm going to go through everything. I also have click-by-click slides and the repository, and I'm going to show you how to make everything from scratch. The last part is just going to actually, the last part is going to be accessing your cluster. So if you have the URL, we're going to get started with the other things, and then we're going to go back to accessing your cluster. So hopefully it'll be fixed and working by then. If not, you will have access to your clusters for 24 hours to play around with. So I will make sure that I keep checking and make sure that you have access to those. So to get started a little bit, I just want to do just a very, I always like to do just a very high level overview of the things we're going to be doing and touching and playing with today, so that we're kind of all on the same page, starting in the same spot. So we're going to be working with containers today. We're going to be using OpenShift's source to image feature and creating a container image from the source code in our repository. But before we do that, what are we talking about when we're talking about containers? So containers are a standard unit of software. It includes all of the code and dependencies required for an application to run quickly and reliably, regardless of whatever operating system or computing environment it's running in. Containers isolate software from its environment to ensure that it will work uniformly despite any differences in operating systems and any differences, for instance, between development and staging. So if that's a container, what are we talking about when we're talking about a container image? So container image is a lightweight, standalone, executable package of software that includes everything needed to run an application. And that includes the code, the runtime, the system tools, system libraries, and settings. Now you may be thinking, oh, well, that sounds just like a container. Well, it is just like a container. And the difference being that container images become containers at runtime. So in the case of Docker images, and if you're creating Docker images with Docker Hub, or Quay or IBM Container Registry. Container images that you create from your source code with it that include a Docker file. Those images become containers at runtime. So when they run on OpenShift, they become containers. So that's kind of the main takeaway here. And container registry. So as you heard, I just mentioned, we are going to be using Docker today. I am going to show you how to create a container image. I'm someone that really likes tutorials and things that are easy to follow. And with as much documentation as there is out there, I feel like, you know, sometimes it's not easy. I just want the 1 or 2 lines that I need to work with. I don't want all the other stuff. So I've kind of condensed everything to make it super easy for us to get started today. And what is Kubernetes? So we're going to kind of be working with Kubernetes today. So Kubernetes groups containers that make up an application into logical units for easy management and discovery. So Kubernetes is also known as K8s. It's an open source system for automating deployment, scaling, and the management of containerized applications. So it groups containers that make up an application into smaller pieces to make it easier to manage and scale. This is, as you can see here, we have our scheduler, controllers, we have our API server, and we have our nodes. And our nodes contain pods. So not to get too much in the weeds, but OpenShift. So what are we talking about when we're talking about OpenShift? Because that's what we're going to be working with today. So OpenShift is a Kubernetes distribution focused on providing a developer experience and application security that's platform agnostic. So OpenShift will help you develop and deploy applications to 1 or multiple hosts. They can be public-facing web applications, backend applications, including microservices or databases. Applications can be implemented in any programming language you choose. The only requirement is that the application can run within a container. So in terms of cloud service computing models, OpenShift implements the functionality of both a platform as a service and a container as a service. Using OpenShift as a container as a service, you can bring pre-existing container images built to the OpenShift container initiative image specification and deploy it. So the platform as a service capabilities of OpenShift build on top of the ability to deploy a container image by providing a way for you to build in OpenShift your own container image directly from your application source code that we're going to be using in GitHub today and have it deployed. The application source code can include a Docker file with instructions to build a container image, or you can use source to image builder, which takes your application source code and it actually converts it into a container image for you without you needing to know how to write instructions for building a container image. So we are going to jump in. Let's see. 22.
Hey, Jenna.
Yes.
This is Evan. Hey, can you repost the HACKTOBERFEST access to OpenShift clusters URL? I think Mark got a 404.
Okay.
And I was able to replicate that as well.
Okay. Yeah, so there, I think there is a slight node issue with the clusters that were provisioned for the lab, but they're working on fixing it.
Okay.
So there's a bunch of, yeah, and there's a bunch of other stuff we're going to do before we even access our clusters. So we don't need to worry too much about that right now.
Cool, cool.
All right, cool. Okay. So if you would like to follow along, you can go ahead and check out the app ID OpenShift repository. And I am going to pull it up here so you can all see it. Okay, so I have all of the instructions here, and we are going to start from the very beginning. I also have screenshots, click by click in the slides. So basically what we're going to do today is we are going to, excuse me, create a React application, add Facebook and Google OAuth to our app with App ID. We're going to push our code to GitHub. I'm going to show you how to build a container image and push to Docker Hub, because it's something that I always am looking for documentation for some reason. I can't just find the 2 commands that I need to use. Then we're going to deploy our React app to Red Hat OpenShift. I'm actually going to show you how to create a container image, and then I'm going to show you how to deploy to OpenShift from your source code using source to image. And then we're going to log into our app with App ID and check it out. So let me check here. Let's see. Okay, I think we might still be working on it. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do, oops, interesting. Okay. So this is what you should see. You should see, you'll see a login that'll ask for the OS lab and the your email. And then once you've been assigned a cluster, you'll see this message and you'll click right here. Since they're working out an issue right now, we're going to do all the other stuff first, which is what we were going to do anyway. So go ahead and just log into your IBM Cloud account. Let me just refresh and just make sure I'm still logged in and everything's fine. All right, perfect. So the first thing we're going to do is create an App ID instance. Excuse me. Okay. So you're going to come to the search bar at the top. You're going to search for App ID. And you're going to click on the App ID service. Okay. And you don't need to do anything here. You can choose the free light tier. So as you can see, we're going to be using the light tier services for everything. And as I mentioned before, the OpenShift clusters will be available for you to use for free for I think they usually have them up for about 24 or 48 hours. And the only thing you need to do here is update the service name if you want. It will auto-generate a default. As you can see here, I already have an existing light plan. But if you didn't, you would just click, I've read and agree to the following agreements. You have your light tier. So as you can see here, we have App ID, free light tier instance. The location is Dallas. I have my service name, and my service group, resource group is default. So it'll always just, you'll have a default resource group that's created when you create your account. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my App ID instance here that I already have created, so you can see that. So once your instance is finished being created, this is what you will see. So this is your App ID instance. And as you can see here, we have an overview. You can actually download sample applications, which is really cool. You have iOS, Swift, Android, Node.js, Java, single page application. We're going to be building a React application from scratch today. So I'm not going to download anything. If we go to manage authentication, we're going to want to do a few things here. So our identity providers we're going to do today, we're going to focus on Cloud Directory, which is IBM's users registry. And then as you can see here, we have Facebook and Google default configurations for authentication, and then make sure the other ones are disabled. So you'll need Cloud Directory, Facebook, and Google enabled. Looks like that's good to go. If you click on Cloud Directory and you go down to users, you can see I already have one here. But what you're going to want to do, zoom out just a little bit so you can see the whole thing. I'm losing some space. There we go. You're going to want to click Create User. And you're just going to want to give them a name. And then, you know, thing, let's say, oh, at least 8 characters. Thing 1. There we go. And then I'm going to say thing1@email.com. Password. Okay. All right. Then you'll click Save. Now, this is the username and password that we are going to use to log into our App ID instance once we have our application up and running and configured. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is scroll down to Applications. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is, let's see, I have a couple instances here. There we go. Get rid of these extra ones that I don't need. And you're going to click Add Application. Just get rid of these. So I know that all of my old keys are deleted. I don't want to have any mix-ups. Okay. So I'm going to add here, I'm going to call this HACKTOBERFEST, and I'm going to select single page application. Come here. Sorry about that. Okay, so you're going to want to select single page application. Our React application is a single page application, so we want to make sure we're selecting the correct type. You can give it any name you want. We don't need to worry about scope. And then we're going to just click Save. Perfect. Now, if you open up this App ID application that we've added here, there's 2 pieces we're going to need from here, the client ID and the discovery endpoint here. Okay, so these are the 2 pieces that we're going to need. The last thing I want to show you, and then we're going to start our app from scratch, is if you go to this login customization section, you can actually choose all kinds of stuff in here. So it has some available header colors. You can actually add, you know, whatever hex code you want to use. You can change the tab. You can see here. I added a footnote. It says powered by Jenna because she is awesome. And this is what it'll look like. And you can see what it looks like on web and mobile. Okay. And then save your changes. So we are going to see this live in action once we are all good to go, up and running. One thing to note here that we are going to come back to a few times is, as you can see here, we have, there we go, our web direct URLs. So these are the redirect URIs that App ID is going to use so that it's can ensure that only authorized clients are allowed to use the authorization workflow. So right now I have localhost 3000. I'm going to add localhost 8080. And we'll see why in just a few minutes. But I'm adding localhost 8080 here. When we're deploying a React application to OpenShift, we need to designate, we need to expose port 8080 for the React application to run on. So I'm just going to add it here. so that it's already taken care of, because it will be looking for that. And if we once we deploy our app locally, we will get an error if we haven't added our URL here. It'll say that it's not authorized. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is, let's see, good to go, good to go. Yep. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just open up terminal. I'm just going to make a new directory, HACKTOBERFEST. All right. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do, you come back here. So if you don't already, you will need Node Version Manager. So I have the curl command here. You can also get the widget command too from the link right here. I already have it installed. Now, I just want to note in case you have any issues. So two things. First of all, if you want to clone the sample application, use this JWritten test app. And I say that because I created this beautiful application for all of you, and there's some issues that I experienced recently this week with the Node version. And it does not allow, the build fails and you can't create a container image or, get your application going. So this has been updated, but there's something still not right. So I blew it up and I just created another one. So if you want to clone, go ahead and just clone this application. You can just click right here. But again, I'm going to show you how to start from scratch. So you'll need Node Version Manager. And then once you have that installed, you can install, this is the LTS version of Node actually. So we're going to install Node version 14.18.1. And then you can set your set the default alias to this version so that when you switch to a new tab, you don't lose what version you're using. And then you're going to want to run nvm use default. So as you can see here in mine, I'm going to check just to make sure. And if you've ever, done development work with Node, you can save hours of your life just checking your Node version before you do anything. So I'm just making sure, okay, this is what the version I want. Now, we already created our cloud account, okay? We created our instance of app ID. We added an application, okay? We're all good to go. Now, if it's been a while since you've used the create React app command, it has been deprecated. So I ran into this error when I got back to working with React. So what you're going to need to do, and this worked for me, is uninstall the create React app command globally from both npm and yarn. So if you run npm uninstall -g create React app, and yarn global remove create React app, and then you rerun the create React app command here, npx create React app, and then give it a name, then you'll be good to go. So let's do that. I'm going to do npx create React app. I'm going to just call it HACKTOBERFEST. Everything's going to be HACKTOBERFEST, so I can tell it apart from all of the other million applications I haven't deleted from my computer yet. Okay, so while that's running there. Now there's a few things that we need to do, but not a whole lot. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to need to be able to load our environment variables dynamically within our React application. And in order to do that, we're going to need to install react.env. The next thing we're going to do is once our project's package.json, excuse me, we're going to need to open our project's package.json file. Excuse me. And we're going to add a .env file to the project root. Excuse me. Okay, so it's just going to finish. So while that's finishing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this test application here. And this is just going to make our life easier today. Okay, create our React app. We're here. And I've attached the original documentation to just about everything. So if there's anything you need to reference at any time, there is a link there for you to do so. Cool. So next, I'm going to npm install react.env. Okay. And then when that's done, I'm going to add a .env file to the project root. And I'm also going to add an app ID OpenShift.env file to the project root. Now, we're not going to use this today, but when we are creating secrets with the OpenShift CLI, today we're going to use the UI. When we're doing it from the CLI, I've just found it's easier to set environment variables and things when I don't just have, I have my env file titled in a way that doesn't cause an issue. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is add a .env file. Okay, perfect. And if we look here, and this is what I have this here for. So for instance, the package JSON here, we can reference this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my, my env file. So this is everything that we're going to need. So I'm just going to copy it from here. And open up my text editor here. There we go. Oh, you know what? I added it in the wrong place. It's because I'm not in my directory. CD. Let me just make sure that this got installed correctly. Probably didn't because I wasn't in the directory. Okay. So what I'm going to do is in my project here, I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to add, so fun fact, when you are creating .env files with React applications, it is looking for environment variables that start with React app. So what I've done here is I've created environment variables, React app client ID, and React app discovery endpoint. So these are the two pieces that we are going to need. And then also, as I mentioned before, I have the port exposed, the application exposed to port 8080, because this is what we're going to need for deploying to OpenShift. Okay. And this is just going to be .env. What? Okay, come on. There we go. Yes, we want to use the dot. Okay, cool. while this is finishing, let me open up a new tab. There we go. Okay. I don't have any mistakes. Let's open this up. Okay, cool. Okay, so we have our package JSON here. There's a few things we're going to need to add here. So if we go back to here. Okay, so we've added our .env file. The next thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to install IBM Cloud's App ID SDK. Okay, so let's go back and see where this is at. Good to go. Now, one thing I want to do before I do that is I want to update my package JSON. So if you go to the application package JSON here, you'll see that we have some updates here. Now this is, we have some of the scripts updated here. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to check out the raw here. I'm going to copy what we have here to our dependencies. All right. And I'm going to come back to my package JSON, go to my dependencies. I'm going to look at a few things here. Okay. Now, as you can see here, we have our react.env, our React scripts. Now we have these, this is what we needed to add. So the pieces that we added here are two things. We added these react.env to our React scripts start and React scripts build and our serve. So we just needed to add these here. We also needed to add this react.env whitelist here. So what I'm doing here is I am with the app ID authentication, just like we added the URI, whitelist URI to our app ID so our web directory URLs here, I also need to designate them here. So this is if we were just running it locally. This is the port that we designated. So it's actually going to be listening on port 8080 because we've set the port to 8080 in the .env. And then what we're going to hear is, you can see this long thing here. So we are going to have a URL. We don't have one at the moment. This is going to be where our deployed application is running when we deploy it to OpenShift. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, oh no, that was my fault. Next thing we're going to do is, if we come back here, we want to add our npm install our app ID SDK. So let me just run that. It's really just a few pieces of setup, and then we don't really have to do a whole lot. We really just update our package JSON. We update our .env. Okay. Now, the other thing I have here is I have directions on what we need to do. So in the source folder of the app, in our app.js here, this is the one other place we need to make changes. As you can see now, we just have a React application. So if we just do npm start here, there we go. You see localhost 3000. Okay, just a basic React application. Now, what we're going to want to do is import app ID from our IBM Cloud app ID.js from SDK in the main application function. This is going to declare a new app ID instance. And then once we initialize app ID and add the error handling, we're going to add our client ID and discovery endpoint, which can be found in the applications tab in our app ID dashboard. Then we're going to create a login function that will execute after the login button is clicked. After successful authentication, the welcome display state will be set to true, and the username will be set to the name value returned with the app ID token. Now, since we only have an hour, so I have our sample applications here. So I'm just going to go to source, and you can take it from either one, the app ID OpenShift or the test app. You're going to click on source and the app.js file. And I'm going to just copy everything here. Keep this. There we go. Okay. So here's my app.js. I'm just going to copy everything here, and I'm going to paste everything in here. So as you can see here, I have my import env from my rack.env. We are importing app ID from the app ID SDK. We are setting our, using useState to set our name. And then we are creating a new app ID instance. And as you can see here, so this is where we're handling our environment variables here. So we're setting our client ID from, and this is how you would access the environment variable from your .env file. So your client ID is going to be process.env.react app client ID, and this is where React gets really, really particular. So it's this part right here, why these start with React app, because that's what it's looking for, and our discovery endpoint. Okay. And then when we log in, we're going to set our name from the ID token payload, get our user info, and then when we click our login button here on our on click, it's going to handle our login, and we're going to be able to see our name. So as you can see here, we're going to be setting our name from the token payload, and then we'll see it in our greeting. I don't want to have two of these. Okay. All right, so good to go. Let me just make sure this is .env package JSON. And then we have, oh, you know what? I deleted my .env and I didn't add it back. Okay. That was my fault. So let me add my env back since I added it to the wrong place. That's why it was listening on 3000. I was wondering about that. Let's see, .env. All right. So I'm going to come back here. There we go. So now, when I npm start, you will see the difference. Now when this starts, it will be listening on port 8080. See, localhost 8080. Okay. As you can see, it's not doing anything, but it's here. That is because we haven't set our environment variables to anything. So the next thing we're going to do is push our code to GitHub. So if you haven't already, you can create a new repo. Just going to call it HACKTOBERFEST. And I'm going to add an MIT license. Create my repo. Cool. Now, I'm going to actually have all of the commands here. So I want to add, you look at your Git status, you'll see like, hey, I just like created an application and all this stuff. So I need to commit it. So I have all of these here. So it's super easy. Git commit all your stuff. Git add, git commit, add. Oh, sorry, that was the wrong one. Git add.env. Oh, I already did that. So I'll just skip this one. We were going to use this, but I actually switched when I updated. I switched to the UI, so we don't need to do that. I'm going to okay. We're going to add our app.js with our app ID instance. And then lastly, we're going to just commit everything else. And we are going to give it a message. A commit message. Okay. So let me just check here. Okay, good. Just want to make sure we had our yarn lock. Okay. Okay. Now this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna type git remote add origin because we have this project locally, but we don't have it. We don't have a remote origin anywhere. So I'm going to copy from the repo I just created. I'm going to, and as you can see here, this is, you know, the format that your repo will be in. Okay, so I added my remote origin. I'm going to get the main branch from the repo. I'm going to git pull from the main branch and overwrite the unrelated history. That's just from the MIT license. Cool. Yeah. I'll tell you, I've done this about 5 or 6 times, and every time I do it, it's a little different. Yes. Here we go. Didn't like the upstream this time, you know, it just, I always have to tweak it a little bit. Let's come back here. All right. So you can drop the U, just git pull origin main, and then allow unrelated histories. I swear, every time I do this, it's literally different. Okay. And then we're going to push everything to the repo. And you'll have it all there. So finish this. Boom. Now, there's one more thing that we need. I'm going to go back to my project here. And one thing we don't have in here is a Docker file. And we're going to need a Docker file if I'm going to show you how to create an image with Docker Hub. So run it locally with Docker. I'll also show you how to push to your Docker Hub. There we go. So I'm just going to grab my Docker file from here. Okay, let's grab this. All right. Okay, so main thing to look at here. So here we're right here. Add a Docker file to the app. Create Docker file. Okay. So this is what we're going to put here. So usually when you have a Docker file, you'll just designate from node latest. Now this is that's what I was referring to. There is a node issue with no fix. The fix is use LTS for now until they fix it. Set working directory. So this is just going to be the name of your application. So mine is HACKTOBERFEST. So I'm just going to change this to HACKTOBERFEST. And this is going to be Docker file. Okay. And then here we're installing dependencies from our package JSON and running npm install, copying the project, and then starting it. So I'm just going to add my changes, commit my changes, and then push it up. Okay. And then we're pretty good to go. So now what I'm going to do is, this is a message that I've gotten a lot, is to install the new CanaUse Lite version and clean the package JSON dependencies. I've gotten this message a lot, so I'm just going to run it, and you'll be able to see it here. Yeah, so it's up to date. If you don't have the latest version, that'll update it for you. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is we are going to build a container image with Docker. Now, make sure you have Docker desktop running. I've made this mistake so many times, and I'm like, oh my God, I broke it. And I just forgot that I quit out of Docker desktop. So make sure Docker desktop is open and running. And then you're going to run Docker build space period space dash tag. Now this period has to be here. It's basically saying like this directory that we're in, this is where we're building. And then I'm going to give it a tag. So I'm just going to create a tag called HACKTOBERFEST. And I'm going to have it build my image. It's going to take just a second. Check how you all are. How are you all doing so far? Make sure you, if you have any questions or whatever, go ahead and post in the chat. Okay, so that's just finishing up. Can't keep up. Don't worry. That's why I have everything written down here for you. So if you're not where we're at, that's totally fine. I literally put the commit messages in here so you didn't have to like be irritated about having to commit your stuff because I always am. I never commit things when I should, and then I overwrite them, and then, it's never good. So don't worry. If you can't keep up, don't worry. And this will be recorded too, so you can go back and watch and pause it as you're going along. So I'm gonna let this finish. So once it's done building, we're going to run So as you can see here, when you are running a container image locally with Docker Desktop, it's literally the command is just Docker space build space period space dash dash tag and whatever you want to call it. Then to run, and that builds the container image. To run the container image with Docker Desktop, you're going to run Docker space run space whatever tag you just created. And then it'll give you the URL to view the application. Now to push to Docker Hub, it's a little bit similar, a little bit different, but a little bit similar. So here we built our image with the tag. What we're going to do here is we're going to tag our Docker image, Docker space tag dash, mine will be Hacktoberfest. So I'm going to be creating a new tag for Docker Hub, and I'll show you. And then this is going to be your repo. So mine is JWritten. It'll be JWritten Hacktoberfest latest. And that's going to tag the Docker image, and then you just will run Docker push and the location, and that's it. And then it'll tell you your push to Docker is going to refer to this Docker repo. Let's come back here and see what we're doing. Okay, it's doing pretty good. Open up a new tab. There we go. Now, I feel like there might be something going on with my Docker Desktop. Let me see. Because it shouldn't still be taking this long. Okay. No containers running. Okay. Let's try this again. So as you can see, it showed it was running up there, but I don't know. So this is your Docker Desktop. I don't know. I'm gonna try one more time. We'll just see what happens. Normally it shouldn't take this long. Interesting. It says it's running. I feel like there's something wrong with my Docker Desktop. That's okay. We won't worry about it right now because you have everything you need in your application. So you have your application, you have your package JSON with your whitelisted URLs for your app ID instance. You have your .env listening on the port. So what I'm going to do is I am going to, let's check. I want to check this again and see if I can access this. I always have a backup just in case. So if you haven't already, or if you were getting an error earlier, go ahead and try again to access a cluster. And I'm going to try from here too. But if you've made it this far, you've created a React application from scratch. You've added an the app ID instance and integrated that into your application. And you have added react.env. You've created a Docker file. So literally you can do anything you want with the application now. So when you create your OpenShift, or I'm sorry, when you're here and you create your OpenShift cluster, you access your cluster, you should be able to go to your notifications over here. Let's see. And you should have an invitation that you can accept. I don't see mine. So any of you, I also was trying to access mine early. Are you guys able to access your cluster? Because I will show you from here. There we go. So when you access your cluster, this is what you will see. You'll see the name, whatever you named your cluster. You'll see the node status, ingress status, the health of the nodes. But basically what we need here are two things. So normally I would say go to actions and click connect via the CLI. Because normally we would be doing this. And if you click the help too, it will also say that. So there's a few different ways. I usually show, when we're working with the CLI, I usually have you launch the IBM Cloud Shell to access your cluster from the CLI and Cloud Shell. So you don't need to do anything locally on your computer. So you don't need to worry about not having something installed that you might need. What I'm going to do is go to the OpenShift web console. So if you go to the OpenShift web console here, there we go. So in case you can't get into your clusters right now, I'm going to walk you through how to do this, so don't worry. So when you first come here, what you're going to see, this is what you're going to see. It'll say administrator at the top. Now, the first thing that you'll need to do is click on administrator and change it to developer. And as you can see here, normally you wouldn't have any, I have a project already. So if you go to all projects, this is what you'll see. You'll see all the projects here. And then what you're going to do is you're going to click all projects and you're going to click create project. And here's where you're going to be able to say, you know, my HACKTOBERFEST project here. And then I'll just make the same, make the display name the same. Okay, oops, don't want that. There we go. The create. All right. Now, as you can see here, there are applications from code samples. I tend to find it difficult to find React and TypeScript and a lot of, and they're not even, TypeScript is newer. React is not new at this point. But I find it challenging to find sample applications in, let's see something. Okay, I'm going to repost this URL and see if it makes a difference. It might be the same, but that's the URL for the OpenShift clusters I just posted again in the chat. Okay, so I've been trying to work on creating, you know, newer tech stacks for sample applications for you all to use. So please feel free to, there's going to be a survey at the end. Please feel free to designate in the poll questions. There's poll questions at the bottom that ask you what coding languages you're working in. Whether you're working in it or not, go ahead and designate any languages you want to see applications in that you can use and get started from. So here's, you can get started from samples, from dev files, from container image, from a Docker file. So here you can actually import your Docker file from your repo, but we're going to use from Git. We're going to use from source code. So what I'm going to do, here we go. Okay, so what I'm going to try to do first is I'm going to go here. There's something wrong with my with my Docker desktop. So we're just going to do this. Let's see how this fares. Move this down so I can see a little better. Okay. So I'm going to do Docker tag HACKTOBERFEST. My Docker repository, the tag, test, and then latest. Yeah, because it's not. Let's see if this will, since you know, I think it was running here and not running here, which is very odd. But anyway, while that's going, we're going to go back here before we run out of time. Okay, so I'm going to say from Git, import code from your Git repository to be built and deployed. And this is really simple. Let me just click back over here so I can get here's my HACKTOBERFEST app. So I'm just going to copy from here, paste the Git repo URL. Okay, so it says it's been validated. It actually selected the builder image for me. So it recognized that it was Node. We don't need to do anything else here. So it has a application name. It's just a unique name it gives it. I'm just going to say HACKTOBERFEST app. And then it also gives it a unique name to the component that'll be used to name associated resources. So any other resources that are associated with it. So this is going to be the application name, and this is going to be what it's going to use to associate any other resources with it. Okay. And then we just want to make sure that this is clicked, but by default it is. This create a route to the application. It just exposes your application at a public URL. And then I'm going to click create. So as you can see, we're in my HACKTOBERFEST project. We have this HACKTOBERFEST application that I just created. So it's building right now. So the build is running. As you can see here, when it's done, we'll be able to access the application to the URL here. And then it says edit source code. It just takes you to your repository in case you need to, make any changes or edit anything. So if we click here, we can take a look at the details. So it's scaling to 1 right now. The update strategy is a rolling update. So max unavailable, 25% of 1 pod. Our namespace is my HACKTOBERFEST project. Excuse me. A pod selector. And so it's running the build right now. We can also take a look at our resources. So right now it's waiting for the build. So if you, for instance, as you see, we're going to update a URL, and then I'm going to start a new build with the updated URL once we deploy our application, so that we can whitelist the URL so that we can access our app ID instance. And then lastly, I'm going to show you where to add your environment variable, your keys in here, your I'm going to show you where to add your environment variables in here so that you can add your client ID and discovery endpoint from your app ID instance. So this will take just a minute. And as you can see here, remember we designated that we wanted to expose the application to port 8080. Our pod port here is running on 8080. And then as you can see here, this is where the location of our application is going to be. So what I can actually do is I can take this, I can copy it. See if that finishes. Maybe I need to, maybe like everything's updating at the end of the month. Maybe I need to update Docker Desktop. I don't know. It's just been the last few days. It's either my computer or something's going on. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our package JSON and I'm going to add the URL for, this is the URL where the application deployed to OpenShift is going to live. So I want to add this here. Okay. So now I can access my application at any of these in my environment variables at any of these URLs. So I'm going to save. I'm going to come here. I'm going to say git status. I'm going to just going to update. And then I'm going to push to my repo. See if this is going. Yeah, see, something is going on with Docker. It just started like an hour or two ago too. I don't know if it's because we have a storm coming. I don't know. I feel like I need a satellite internet or something. So what I'm going to do is I'm just updating this with the URL for the OpenShift deployed application, or where the application is being deployed to. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to rerun the build. I'm going to add my environment variables, and then I'll be able to access and log into my application. So let me come back here. Come on, is this not moving? There we go. Okay. Okay, build is complete. All right, let's check this out. Yay! Now we have our, zoom in. It's so tiny. There we go. Our super cool, this is the wrong one. It's supposed to say OpenShift. I think that didn't get committed. I use the same applications for everything. This is our super cool OpenShift and App ID application. You're just reading it wrong. Okay. So that's our application. Now, what we want to do, if we come over here and we click where it says test app with this D by it, I'm going to click here. Oh, sorry. Click on the A. So I can access the deployments because I can't get it there. So you're going to click on the A. Oh, this is the wrong one. Sorry, we're here. This was our application. That was the other one. Okay. So we're going to click here on where the A next to our HACKTOBERFEST app. We're going to click on this deployment. Now we're going to go. So these are the deployment details. We have the details, the YAML, replica sets, pods, environment, events. Now, as you notice, we didn't have to create a YAML file. We didn't need a manifest YAML. Like, we didn't have to do any of that stuff. All we had to do was create the application. We didn't even need the, yeah, see, there's something's going on. We don't even need a Docker file. I just want to show you all how to do that. Okay, so this is good to go. This was my mistake. Oh, there we go. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is let's see. I'm just going to add everything. Update package JSON with OpenShift deployed at URL. Okay. Push this. Beans. And now when I come back here, if I click on environment, here's where I can add Here's where I can add my environment variables. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my env. So first I have my React app client ID, add that here. And then I'm going to add my React app discovery endpoint here. And then I still have my application open over here. So while I'm here, why don't I'll just do this first. I'm going to click on applications. Here is my, oh, I'm in the wrong spot. Here's where I want to be. There we go. I'm going to go to my applications. I'm going to go to my HACKTOBERFEST application, single page app, copy the client ID. Okay. I'm going to paste it here for the value for the client ID. Then I'm going to copy the discovery endpoint, which is very long. There we go. Copy that. Okay. There we go. And then I'm going to click save. Okay. So I've successfully added my environment variables. Now I'm going to go back to my application. There we go. I'm going to just want to make sure I already. So this is the same URL. Now remember, I mentioned we have to do this in our app ID instance as well. So if we go to manage authentication, I need to add this URL so that we can access our app ID instance here. All right, perfect, cool. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a new build so I can just refresh and update everything. And that'll take just a minute, but what I can do over here, is this the other one? Oh, this is my other application. Yeah, this is my other application that I did earlier. So this one's already good to go. So if I go here, see, as you can see here, I updated my build. So if I click on the URL here, open my application, it says the wrong thing, but that's okay. If I click login, it popped up on the wrong screen. Ooh, and it's orange for Halloween. So I have my login with Facebook, login with Google, and it just says using default configuration. So I can use, let me just double check. Cloud directory users. I have test user. Ah, yes. Okay. So I'm going to use, let me go back to my application. Okay, I can log in with testuser@email.com. I think that's what it was. Yeah. Okay. And then password. Woo! Welcome back, test user. Okay, so that's using our IBM Cloud directory. Now what I really want to do is I want to log in with my Google. So I should be logged in with my other stuff. Okay, so I click login, I click on my account, and there you go. So that name that we were pulling from the payload ID token payload got my name and displayed it right here. So we had a few, pieces, a few little things. It was more setting up our application than anything else. And I also, like I mentioned, wanted to show you how to create a Docker image and push to Docker Hub, which I think I need to update my Docker Hub because it's just like not working. Or maybe I've used it too much. They did just make those account changes, so maybe I used it too much and I needed to like upgrade to a paid account or something. That could very well be because I've been using a lot this week. But so basically what we've done is we've created an instance of our app ID with Google and Facebook authentication. We have created a React application from scratch. We've created a new repository in GitHub. We've pushed our application there. We've added a .env file with our super special custom React app client ID and React app discovery endpoint environment variable key value pairs. We have added our .env as well as our app ID SDK to our application. We're accessing our client ID and discovery endpoint. Well, we're initializing our app ID instance here. We're getting our name from the ID token payload. So when we logged in, we can see our name that we're logged in, or as you can see, our test user. So you can create users and different types of login too. Okay, so this one's done. So let's check this one out. So I'm going to press it. Is it not finished? Maybe it's not finished. I feel like I might be burning through my free tiers of services, to be honest. Or maybe I probably copied the wrong URL. But we have it running here. It just says the wrong thing. Actually, if I come to my test app here, let's see, and I come to go to my application, just update it real quick. There we go. OpenShift. Wrong workshop. Okay, let me just commit this. Okay, so I've updated this. So what we can actually do is I can actually start a new build for this application. And then we'll be able to see the change. Yeah, I feel like every time I update or change or create a new workshop, I find out the limitations of the light tiers. For instance, I found out how to max out my, actually, I'll show you. So if you go to, I'll show you this again. If you go to your container registry here, if you ever get a weird error and you're trying to create new applications from container images, you're trying to create new builds actually of your container images. I had this issue. Container registry. Yeah, so the free tier plan for container registry, you'll max out after, I think after maybe like 4 or 5 builds, depending on the size of your application, you'll get an error. It just won't build anymore. So I actually upgraded to the standard plan. So it would stop breaking. I probably need to update it again. Let me go back here and see where we're at. Okay, well that's finished. So while that's finishing, if anyone has any questions or anything, I also want to give you a second to get this for all of you. So first of all, I'd like to say congratulations to all of you for hanging in there, hanging with me on the last Friday of HACKTOBERFEST. I don't know about you, but it has been a long month. And Mark, so Mark has a message here that says I upgraded to pay-as-you-go. Yes, so if you have an existing cloud account, you will need to upgrade to pay-as-you-go, which basically just has you put a card on file and enables you to use all the free light tiers. So all of my workshops are always only using the free light tiers, so you don't have to worry about that. Going forward, you will have to add a credit card. If you sign up for an IBM Cloud account with the IBM Cloud URL that we provide for you during the workshops, you will be able to skip that add a credit card for, I think it'll let you use the IBM Cloud products and services for 30 days, I think, before you need to add a card. But again, that's only if you upgrade any services, go beyond the light tier. If you expend all of the light tier services, it will break things. It's not going to just automatically upgrade you to the next one. It'll just break, and you'll have to go and check your service instance and see if you've probably maxed out the OpenShift be available for 24 hours. Yes. So I actually, I'm going to, you can contact me here in the chat after the workshop's over. I am going to keep checking and make sure that you can access that. So I will put an update here as soon as in the actual chat here, as soon as I get confirmation from the team that it is fixed. If I need to give you a new URL for some reason, again, I'll put it in the chat here. So just check the chat here. I also want to share with you, and again, the survey, please feel free to fill it out. I'd like to get as much feedback from you all as possible on, what tech stacks you're using, what sample applications you'd like to see, what kind of technologies you're working with. Also, what type of integrations you want to see. Like, do you want to see, what IBM products and services do you want to see with these workshops? For instance, we're doing OpenShift and App ID, but we could do OpenShift with, auto AI models, and deploying an application with an auto AI model to OpenShift, and adding the keys like we did so that you can make a request and receive a response from your auto AI models. There's a lot of stuff, adding a chatbot. There's a lot of stuff that we can do. So, let me know what you'd like to see. I want to see this type of application that does this function, uses this IBM cloud integration, and does this kind of, whatever it is that you want to see, please feel free to share. I'm always creating new stuff. This is a very basic, application, but I wanted to make sure that we got the gist of what was going on. All of the pieces were connected first before we make it too complicated. But now all of you have sample applications, as well as the tutorial and click-by-click slides, that you can now take that application with the App ID integration and go change the UI and use it at a hackathon. Create a project for something, create a portfolio website. Do with it whatever you'd like to do. And also, if you want to create it from scratch, you have the steps to do that as well. So feel free to share at ibm.biz/appid/OpenShift-survey. As always, I have all of the event resources at the end, as well as If you want to learn more, and you can go back through the slides as well. I have a whole bunch about authentication, JSON Web Tokens, Pixie, App ID. It's too much to go over and do all of the hands-on portion, but it is in the slides. There's also resources here for you. There's also App ID resources as well. So the App ID SDK and the documentation. And then I have these certifications for you at the end as well. And here's where you can find us on all of our IBM Developer socials. And again, I'd just like to thank you all so much for coming to our wonderful HACKTOBERFEST workshop to end the month with. HACKTOBERFEST is my favorite time of year. I always look forward to it. I'm always looking to, yeah, so it wasn't a background image. It was actually just me as Gumby. I have a Pokey costume, but the eyes are on the side and it's hard to see the face. But I'd like to thank you all for coming. I'm going to, let me just check real quick and see before we go, see where things are at with this. Build 3 is complete. Let's see. Okay. 50-50 is going to work. I've either maxed out some sort of instance or I just needed to rerun the build. Woo! Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, let's log in. Oh, and if you're wondering, this is my dog, Giselle. She's amazing. Log in with Google. Woo! Okay, so the build just wasn't done running yet. That's why I was having that issue. But yeah, so what I just clicked on here is I actually just updated in the source code. I changed that code engine to OpenShift because that was from another project. And then I clicked start build to just rerun a new build, and it's all good to go and updated. So again, I'd like to thank you all so much for coming. Let me take us out. Let's see. There we go. I'm going to take us out with a little bit of music, and I will see you all next time. I'm going to be working on some new applications and tutorials for the next couple of months, but I will see you all going into the new year. If you have any questions, I added my link tree there. You can always send me a LinkedIn message or set up some time with me on my Calendly. I'm here to help you out. And again, to answer the question in the chat, I will be updating you all on the clusters in the chat once they're working and good to go. So I will let you all know. So thank you all so much. The recording, you'll see the live stream off and the recording on, but I will be checking the chat. So feel free to keep messaging with me in there. And I'll be there to help you out. All right, well, have a wonderful end of HACKTOBERFEST. And for those of you celebrating Halloween, a very happy Halloween, a very happy Hacktober. And I will see you all next time. Thank you so much for coming.
It's so exciting watching my life unfurl at a time when geeks like me can change the world. There's a hackathon tonight, and if it works out alright, I can improve society. Oh yeah, improve society. But a VC will be there with money in his wallet. If I pitch him like a boss, I could get funding for my project. 7-figure sum, and I'll be crushing everyone at the hackathon tonight. At the hackathon tonight.